The planet Xurian 9 was not a place anyone would want to visit. It was cold, dark, and covered with jagged rocks and deep canyons. The sky was almost always gray, heavy with thick clouds that blocked out the stars. But beneath the planet's surface, far below the barren lands, there was a secret prison. This prison held many beings from different worlds, captured during battles and wars that spread across the galaxy. One of the prisoners was an alien woman named Scifi. She came from a planet far from Xurian 9, a world called Aluris. Her people were gentle and wise, known throughout the galaxy for their peacekeeping and knowledge. Scifi herself was special, an emissary sent to speak with other worlds and share ideas of harmony and cooperation. But here, in this dark and cold prison, she was far from peace. Scifi sat quietly in her small cell, her glowing skin dim in the flickering light. Her body was tired, and her eyes held a sadness that went deep. For 7 long days, she had been held captive, questioned, and watched by the cruel guards of the Karth Syndicate. The Karth were a harsh and violent race, known for taking what they wanted without caring for others. They believed Scifi had knowledge of a powerful Ilari technology, something that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. But no matter how much they asked, she refused to tell them. She knew that if she gave them what they wanted, it could lead to destruction and war. Each day, the guards came to her cell. They shouted questions, threats, and demands. Sometimes, they used painful methods to try to break her spirit. But Scifi was strong. Her mind held on to hope, and her heart refused to give in. In the darkness of her cell, Scifi thought about her home. She remembered the soft light of Aluris's twin suns, the gentle rivers, and the warm voices of her family. She missed her people and longed to see them again. She hoped that somehow someone would come to save her. Far above the prison, in the cold blackness of space, a small ship approached Xurian 9. It was not a military vessel or a ship of war. It was a cargo hauler. Its paint was scratched and faded from years of travel, and it moved slowly toward the planet's surface. Inside the ship, a man named Elias Vance prepared for his mission. He was not a soldier anymore, but a retired commander from the Earth Federation, a group of humans who had joined together to protect peace in the galaxy. Vance had left the Federation after many years, but he still cared deeply about justice and fairness. Vance had heard rumors about the prison on Xurian 9, stories of prisoners taken from many worlds, especially about an alien woman being tortured. He did not know much about her, only that she was important and needed help. He did not expect to find an easy rescue. The Karth Syndicate was dangerous, and their prison was known to be one of the most secure places in the galaxy. But Vance had his own reasons for taking the risk. As the cargo ship landed on the dusty surface, Vance looked out the small window. The planet looked lifeless, but he knew that beneath the ground, dark secrets waited. The airlock hissed open, and Vance stepped onto the landing platform. He wore a simple uniform, a badge that marked him as a Federation tech inspector. His face was serious and calm, but his eyes showed determination. The prison complex was a massive structure built into the rock. Tall walls of metal and stone surrounded the area, with armed guards patrolling the perimeter. Cameras and sensors watched every movement. Inside, the halls were cold and quiet, except for the distant sounds of machines and footsteps. Vance moved carefully, using forged documents and his knowledge of security systems to pass through checkpoints. He passed cells holding many prisoners, all silent and tired. Some looked at him with fear or hope, but he did not stop. His goal was clear. Finally, he reached the deepest part of the prison, where the highest value prisoners were kept. There, behind thick walls and reinforced doors, was the cell of Scifi. Vance stopped outside her cell and looked inside. She was sitting on a small bench, her body weak, but her eyes bright with quiet strength. Even after days of pain, she had not lost her spirit. Scifi noticed the new visitor. She did not trust him at first, but something about his calm presence made her pause. He spoke softly, telling her that help was coming. For the first time in a long while, Scifi allowed herself to feel a small spark of hope. But the prison was not a safe place. Guards watched from hidden cameras, and the commander of the facility, General Cragg, was suspicious. Cragg was a large, powerful Karth with sharp eyes and a cruel mind. He did not like the idea of anyone interfering with his control. Cragg gathered his officers and ordered them to watch the new visitor closely. He was sure that this man was not just a simple inspector. As night fell on Sirian 9, the cold winds howled outside, but inside the prison, a quiet battle was about to begin. Vance planned his moves carefully, knowing that one mistake could mean death for both him and Scifi, but he was ready to risk everything to save the alien woman and stop the Karth's dark plans. And deep inside her cell, Scifi waited, her heart full of hope that the human who had come to Sirian 9 was the answer she had been praying for. The prison on Sirian 9 was built deep underground, hidden beneath layers of rock and metal. It was designed to hold the most dangerous prisoners, but it also kept those who were important, like Scifi, the alien woman from Alaris. No one could escape from this place. The walls were thick, the guards were many, and the security systems were among the best in the galaxy. But today, something was different. A new visitor had arrived. Commander Elias Vance moved quietly through the long halls, his steps soft against the cold metal floor. He wore the uniform of a Federation tech inspector, but beneath the calm face was a man with a mission. He had heard the rumors about Scifi and the terrible things happening here. He knew he had to find her and bring her to safety. Vance had once been a soldier, trained to fight in the toughest battles. Now he used his skills for different reasons. He did not follow orders blindly anymore. He believed in justice and mercy above all. And when he heard about the alien woman being tortured, something inside him stirred. He could not ignore her pain. The prison was dark and silent, except for the distant hum of machines and the occasional clank of metal doors. Vance checked his data pad, confirming the location of Scifi's cell. The coordinates matched the deepest part of the prison, farthest from the surface. As he walked, he passed other prisoners. Some were silent and resigned, while others watched him carefully. They had learned not to trust strangers here. But Vance's face did not show fear or anger. It showed calm determination. When he reached the secure level, the air felt colder. The walls were lined with reinforced steel, and cameras turned slowly to watch his every move. Vance's heart beat steadily. He had trained for moments like this, moments when a single decision could change everything. At the door to Scifi's cell, Vance stopped and looked inside. She was sitting quietly on the small bench, her glowing skin dim but still beautiful. Her eyes met his, tired but full of hope. "Scifi," he said softly, "I am here to help you." She studied him carefully. In this place, trust was hard to give, but something in his voice, in the way he looked at her, told her he was different. Maybe he was the rescue she had waited for. Before Vance could say more, a voice came over the loudspeakers. "Tech Inspector Vance," said a cold, sharp voice. "You are not scheduled for this area. Identify yourself." Vance's hand moved quickly. He tapped his data pad and sent a false authorization signal. The voice paused, then answered. "Authorization confirmed. Proceed with inspection." He smiled quietly to himself. The systems here were good, but not perfect. He had prepared for this moment. Suddenly, footsteps echoed down the hall. Guards were coming. Vance knew he had little time. "Scifi, stay calm," he whispered. "I will return for you." He left the cell and moved quickly toward the security room. There, he planned to disable the cameras and alarms that watched the prison. Without those eyes, he could make a better plan to get her out. Meanwhile, deep inside the prison command center, General Cragg stared at the screens. His sharp eyes watched the hallways, searching for anything unusual. The new visitor had caught his attention from the start. "Something is wrong," Cragg said to his officers. Keep a close watch on that human. I want to know everything he does." The guards nodded and moved to their posts. Back in the hallways, Vance worked quickly. He hacked into the security system using a small device hidden in his sleeve. The screens flickered, then went dark. The alarms were silent. For a moment, the prison felt less like a trap and more like a place he could control. But Vance knew this was only the beginning. He returned to Scifi's cell. The door hissed open, and she stepped out, supported by his strong arm. She was still weak from days of captivity, but she moved with quiet dignity. "Can you walk?" Vance asked. "Not far," she replied, "but I can try." They moved through the twisting corridors, careful and silent. The prison was like a maze, full of hidden dangers. Every shadow could hide a guard. Every turn could be a trap. As they walked, Sci-Fi told Vance about her people and the reason she was taken. She spoke softly, her voice like music in the cold air. "The Ilari are peacekeepers," she said. "Our technology is meant to heal and protect, not to destroy. The Karth want to use it for war. I cannot let that happen." Vance nodded. "I understand. I'm here to stop them." They reached a service shaft, a narrow tunnel used for maintenance. It was the only way out that did not lead past heavily armed guards. Vance opened the hatch, and they climbed down into the darkness. The air was cool and smelled of metal and dust. The tunnel was small, but strong enough to hold them. As they moved through the shaft, Vance kept a close watch. The walls echoed their footsteps. They could hear voices from above, guards searching for them already. Suddenly, a shadow appeared at the tunnel's entrance. A guard had found them. Vance acted fast. Using a small stun baton, he knocked the guard unconscious without causing serious harm. Sci-Fi watched in surprise, but she understood. Vance was not here to fight to kill. He fought to protect. They continued through the tunnel, deeper into the prison's underbelly. Sci-Fi's strength began to return slowly, helped by a small vial of medicine Vance had brought. It was a healing serum made from Earth's advanced technology. "This will help," Vance said, "but we must hurry." The tunnel led to a hidden exit, a small door opening onto the rocky surface of HFY 9. Outside, the cold wind howled, carrying the scent of dust and stone. Vance pushed the door open and looked out. The sky was dark, but a few stars shone through the clouds. It was a harsh world, but it was freedom. Sci-Fi stepped outside, breathing the cold air deeply. For the first time in days, she felt the hope of life beyond the prison walls. But their escape was not over. From the distant base, alarms began to sound. The Karth Syndicate had realized that the human was not just an inspector. They were trying to free the alien woman. General Craig's voice came over the comms. "All units, find the escapees. Do not let them leave." Vance grabbed Sci-Fi's hand. "We need to move fast. There's a ship nearby that can take us off this planet." They ran across the rocky surface, dodging patrols and using the shadows for cover. Sci-Fi's strength was growing, and her glowing skin brightened with renewed energy. Together, they reached the ship, a small, fast craft hidden among the rocks. Vance quickly started the engines, and the ship lifted off just as the Karth fighters appeared on the horizon. The chase had begun. As the ship soared into the blackness of space, Sci-Fi looked at Vance with gratitude. "Thank you," she said softly. "You saved my life." Vance smiled, but his eyes were serious. "This is just the beginning. The Karth will not stop until they get what they want, but we won't let them." High above HFY 9, the stars glittered like diamonds. The galaxy was vast, and danger was everywhere, but so was hope. And in this moment, a human and an alien were united, ready to fight together for peace and freedom. The ship hummed softly as it drifted through the vast blackness of space, far from the harsh world of HFY 9. Inside the small cabin, Sci-Fi sat quietly, her glowing skin beginning to brighten after the healing serum. Though she was still weak, A new light filled her eyes, a light of hope and trust. Commander Elias Vance watched her carefully. He could see the strength beneath her fragile appearance, the same strength that had kept her alive through endless days of pain and fear. But Vance also knew this was just the beginning. The Karth Syndicate would not stop hunting them. They had to be ready. Sephiroth's voice broke the silence. "You saved me, Commander. Why? You do not know me, and yet you risked your life." Vance smiled softly. "I know more than you think. I know what it feels like to be hunted. I know what it means to fight for someone else's freedom. And I know that no one deserves to suffer alone." Sephiroth looked at him, her eyes searching. "Humans are different from the Karth. In many ways," Vance said. "We make mistakes. We fight wars. But deep down, we believe in mercy and justice. That's why I came." For a long moment, they sat in silence, the hum of the ship the only sound. Outside the window, stars drifted by like silent watchers of their journey. Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped loudly. "Warning," Vance said, checking the screen. "Karth patrol ships are nearby. They must have tracked us from Sirian 9. Sephiroth's face tightened with worry. "They will not give up. They want the Aelari technology, no matter the cost." Vance nodded. "Then we must be smarter than they expect." He began to plot a course away from the patrols, using asteroid fields and gas clouds to hide their path. The ship's engines responded smoothly, changing direction with ease. As they flew deeper into space, Vance shared what little he knew about the Karth Syndicate's plans. They believe the Aelari technology can give them power over entire star systems. If they get it, the galaxy could be plunged into war. Sephiroth's eyes darkened. "Then we must stop them." Vance's voice was firm. "And we will. But first, you must recover your strength. You need to be ready for what comes next." Sephiroth closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The healing serum was working, but her body still ached. The days of captivity had left marks, both physical and deep inside her mind. As she rested, memories of the prison returned. She remembered the cold walls, the harsh lights, the endless questioning. But she also remembered something else, the kindness of a stranger who risked everything for her. Vance was not like the others. He did not see her as a prisoner or a tool. He saw her as a person, a woman with a story, with hopes and fears. That thought gave her new strength. Suddenly, the ship's alarm sounded again. "Incoming transmission," Vance said, pressing a button. The screen lit up with the face of General Cragg, the cruel Karth commander from Sirian 9. "Commander Vance," Cragg's voice was cold and filled with anger. "You have stolen what does not belong to you. Return the alien woman, or face the consequences." Vance stared at the screen, unshaken. "Sephiroth is not your prisoner. She is free now. If you want her, you will have to come and take her." Cragg's face twisted into a sneer. "You think you can challenge the Karth Syndicate? We will hunt you to the edges of the galaxy." The transmission ended, leaving silence in its wake. Sephiroth looked at Vance. "They will not stop. Their reach is long." Vance nodded. "Then we need allies." He reached for a communication device and sent a coded message to the Earth Federation. The Federation had powerful ships and many friends among the stars. If they knew what the Karth were doing, they might help. While waiting for a response, Vance and Sephiroth began to plan their next move. They could not stay hidden forever. The Karth would find them if they tried. Sephiroth shared what she knew about her people's technology. It was not a weapon, but a tool for healing and growth. If the Karth used it for war, it could destroy many worlds. "We must protect it," she said firmly, "even if it costs us everything." Vance placed a hand on her shoulder. "You are not alone anymore. Humanity stands with you." As days passed, Sephiroth grew stronger. Her skin glowed brighter, and her eyes shone with determination. The bond between her and Vance deepened, not just as allies, but as friends. One evening, As the stars twinkled outside their ship, Sci-Fi asked softly, "Tell me about Earth, your home." Vance smiled. "Earth is a world full of life and variety. Mountains, oceans, forests, places where people live and dream. We have our problems, but we always believe in better days." Sci-Fi listened, fascinated by his stories. In those moments, she forgot the prison, the pain, and the fear. She saw hope. Suddenly, the ship's sensors detected movement nearby. Vance's voice was sharp. "Karth fighters. They found us again." The small ship shook as laser fire hit its shields. Vance maneuvered quickly, dodging blasts and steering through a nearby asteroid field. Sci-Fi's psionic powers, still weak but growing, flared in defense. She sent out a wave of energy that disrupted the enemy's targeting systems, giving Vance the chance to escape. The Karth ships pulled back, but Vance knew it was only a temporary victory. "Next time, they won't be so easy to stop," he warned. Sci-Fi nodded. "Then we must prepare." That night, under the silent watch of distant stars, two unlikely allies made a promise: to fight for peace, to protect what was sacred, and to stand together against darkness. The galaxy was full of danger, but also full of hope. And together, they would face whatever came next. The small ship soared through the dark stretch of space, weaving its way past glowing stars and swirling clouds of cosmic dust. Inside, Commander Elias Vance and Sci-Fi shared a quiet moment, but danger was never far behind. The Karth Syndicate's fighters still hunted them relentlessly, cutting through the void like deadly shadows. Vance's hands gripped the controls tightly, his eyes sharp and focused. His mind was calculating every move, searching for a way to outsmart the enemy. Sci-Fi, though still recovering, had begun to regain some of her strength. The healing serum from Earth helped, but more important was her will to fight. She could feel her ancient Aelari powers stirring within her, soft pulses of energy rising from deep inside, waiting for the right moment to awaken. "We can't run forever," Sci-Fi said quietly. "They will catch us if we stay in open space." Vance nodded. "We need to find a place to hide. Somewhere they won't expect." His fingers flew across the console, scanning nearby star systems. Then he spotted it, an ice-covered moon orbiting a giant gas planet. Its surface was frozen solid, but underneath the ice, Vance remembered, were tunnels and caves formed by volcanic activity. It was a perfect place to hide. "An ice moon," he said. "They won't look for us there." Sci-Fi studied the glowing map. "It is dangerous, but it might be our only chance." Vance set the course, and the ship changed direction, heading for the icy world. As they approached the moon, the cold light of distant stars reflected off its frozen surface. Below, the ice glimmered like glass, hiding secrets beneath. Vance maneuvered the ship carefully through thick clouds of frost and snow. The ship's temperature systems worked hard to keep them warm, but outside the windows, the world was a frozen wasteland. They landed in a hidden cavern at the edge of the ice, where geothermal vents warmed the rock and created a small safe zone. The cavern was dark but alive with strange colors, blues and greens glowing softly in the icy walls. Vance helped Sci-Fi from the ship, careful with her still weak body. "This place will protect us," he said, "for now." Sci-Fi took a deep breath, letting the cool air fill her lungs. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved me again." Vance smiled but stayed alert. "We're not safe yet. The Karth will not give up." Inside the cavern, the warmth from the vents melted small streams of water that ran through the rocks. Sci-Fi knelt by one of the pools and touched the water gently. It felt alive, full of energy, much like her own people's technology. As she rested, Sci-Fi told Vance more about the Aelari and their powers. Their energy was tied to life itself, meant to heal planets and help civilizations grow. But in the wrong hands, it could be twisted into a weapon. "The Karth want to use our power to control others," she said, her voice steady but filled with sadness. "They do not understand the balance we protect." Vance listened carefully. "We'll stop them. Together." Suddenly, the quiet was broken by the sharp sound of alarms on the ship. Vance frowned and checked the sensors. "Karth ships," he said, his voice tense. "They tracked us here." Sephiara's eyes narrowed. "They are relentless." Vance grabbed a small case from the ship, a collection of tools and weapons designed for emergencies. "We have to defend this place," he said, "and buy time." Outside, the cold wind howled across the ice. The Karth fighters descended, cutting through the frozen sky like arrows. Vance and Sephiara prepared to face them. Vance set up a series of improvised traps using energy nets and hidden mines. He worked quickly, using the rugged terrain to his advantage. Sephiara focused her mind, reaching deep into her Alari energy. Her glowing skin brightened as she summoned a protective field around the cavern, shimmering like a shield made of light. When the Karth ships appeared over the cavern, their weapons fired, sending blasts of energy toward the shield. Sephiara held steady, feeling the power flow through her. The shield absorbed the attacks, protecting them from harm. But the Karth did not stop. They sent down ground forces, soldiers equipped with heavy armor and advanced weapons. Vance and Sephiara moved through the icy tunnels, using the shadows to avoid detection. When the Karth soldiers closed in, Vance used his stun baton and quick reflexes to disable them without causing lasting injury. Sephiara's powers, though still growing, allowed her to create bursts of energy that knocked enemies back and created barriers to slow their advance. Together, they fought like a well-oiled team, human skill and alien power working in harmony. Despite the Karth's numbers, Vance's traps, and Sephiara's shield gave them the upper hand. But Vance knew this battle was just the start. The Karth would send more forces, more ships. "We need reinforcements," he said, breathless but determined. Sephiara nodded. "The Federation will come. They must." As the last Karth soldier retreated into the shadows, Vance and Sephiara stood together, looking out across the frozen landscape. The icy moon was quiet once more, but the fire of their fight burned bright. Vance turned to Sephiara. "We survived this attack, but the war is far from over." Sephiara smiled faintly. "Then we will face it, together." The stars above glowed cold and distant, but within the icy cavern, a new warmth was growing. The warmth of hope, friendship, and an unbreakable promise. No matter what dangers came next, they would stand side by side. And humanity's courage would shine through the darkness, lighting a path for all who believed in peace. The icy moon was quiet once more, but the calm was only temporary. Far away, in the dark halls of the Karth Syndicate's command ship, General Cragg paced angrily. His sharp eyes glowed with fury as he watched the messages from Xerion 9 and the reports of the failed capture. "They have escaped," Cragg growled to his officers. "The alien woman and the human, both have slipped through our fingers. This is unacceptable." His officers bowed their heads slightly, but Cragg's voice cut through the room. "Prepare the fleet. I want every ship ready to hunt them down. No mistakes this time." Cragg's plan was clear. He would bring down the full power of the Karth Syndicate to capture Sephiara and stop Commander Elias Vance. Meanwhile, on the ice moon, Vance and Sephiara worked quickly. Their temporary safety was fragile. Vance sent another coded message to the Earth Federation, hoping for backup. The Federation's response was slow, but he had faith they would come. "We don't have much time," Vance said as he checked the ship's sensors. "The Karth will be back soon, and with more ships." Sephiara nodded. "Then we must prepare to defend ourselves and fight for the future." Vance began reinforcing their position in the cavern. Using tools from his ship, he set up energy barriers and traps, creating a strong defense against any attackers. Sephiara focused on strengthening her protective energy shield, practicing to expand its range and power. As they worked, The bond between them grew stronger. They shared stories of their homes and dreams, finding comfort in each other's company amid the danger. One evening, as the soft light of the geothermal vents filled the cavern, Scifi spoke quietly. "In my world, we believe that even in the darkest times, there is a light that guides us. It is hope." Vance smiled. "That is something I believe in too. Hope is what keeps us fighting." Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped urgently. "Incoming Karth ships," Vance said, his voice tense. "They're closer than before. It looks like a full attack." Scifi's eyes flashed with determination. "Then we stand and fight." The icy sky outside the cavern grew bright as Karth fighters arrived, their weapons ready to fire. Vance and Scifi prepared for battle. The first wave of attacks came swiftly. Energy blasts struck the protective shield, sending ripples of light across the cavern walls. Scifi held steady, focusing all her strength on keeping the shield intact. Vance moved through the cavern with quick precision, activating traps that disabled enemy ships and soldiers. His experience in combat was clear. Every move was calculated and effective. Despite their efforts, the Karth forces were strong and relentless. More soldiers entered the cavern, using heavy weapons to break through defenses. Scifi tapped into her growing powers, sending bursts of energy that pushed back the attackers and shielded Vance. Her glowing skin shone brighter with every wave of power, a beacon of hope in the cold, dark place. But the battle was taking its toll. Vance was hit by a blast that knocked him to the ground. Pain shot through his body, but he pushed himself up, refusing to give in. Scifi rushed to his side, her energy healing the wounds slowly but surely. "Stay with me," she whispered, her voice full of strength. Vance smiled weakly. "I'm not done yet." Together, they fought on, side by side. The fight lasted for hours. The cavern shook with explosions and the sound of battle. The Karth seemed endless, but Vance and Scifi refused to surrender. At last, the attackers began to retreat, their forces weakened and disorganized. Vance stood tall, breathing heavily but victorious. "They will be back," he said. "We have to be ready." Scifi looked at the wounded soldiers and then at Vance. "We cannot fight alone. We need allies." Vance nodded. "The Federation is on its way. We just have to hold out." As the last echoes of battle faded, Vance and Scifi prepared for the long fight ahead. The galaxy was watching, and their courage would inspire many. In the quiet moments after the storm, Scifi spoke softly. "You saved me once, Elias. Now we save many." Vance looked at her, his eyes full of hope. "Together, we will." The icy moon was still cold, but within its frozen walls, a fire of determination burned bright. A fire that would light the way to freedom for all. The cold silence of space was suddenly broken by the roar of engines and the flash of laser fire. The small ship carrying Commander Elias Vance and Scifi was under attack again. The Karth Syndicate's fighters had tracked them to a remote space station orbiting a distant star. Inside the ship's cockpit, Vance's hands moved swiftly over the controls. His eyes scanned the radar, calculating every move. Scifi sat beside him, still weak but growing stronger every day. Her glowing skin pulsed softly, and a new determination shone in her eyes. "We can't let them catch us here," Vance said, his voice steady despite the danger. "We need to break through their blockade." Scifi nodded. "My powers are growing. I can help protect us." As the Karth fighters closed in, Vance engaged the ship's advanced shields. The lasers struck the hull with bright sparks and low rumbles, but the shields held strong. Vance maneuvered the ship with expert skill, weaving through the enemy fire. He guided the ship toward the space station, hoping to find refuge or a way to escape. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared. Several fighters had locked onto their position, preparing to strike. Scifi reached out with her mind, sending waves of energy to disrupt the enemy's targeting systems. Her psionic power shimmered around the ship like a glowing shield, making it harder for the Karth to aim. "Keep them off us," she urged. Vance smiled grimly. "That's the plan." Using a sudden burst of speed, the ship darted toward the station's docking bay. But the Karth were relentless, firing everything they had. The ship shook violently as blasts struck its shields. Warning lights flashed inside the cockpit, and the air grew tense. Vance's mind raced. He had trained for moments like this, but the danger was real and close. "Prepare for emergency landing," he ordered. The ship slipped into the docking bay just as the Karth fighters hovered outside, ready to block the exit. Inside the station, the atmosphere was cold and metallic. The docking bay was a maze of pipes, vents, and dark corridors. Vance and Scifi quickly exited the ship, moving cautiously through the shadows. "We need to find the control room," Vance said. "If we can take control of the station, we can escape." Scifi nodded, her glowing skin lighting their path. As they moved deeper into the station, they encountered Karth soldiers. Vance fought skillfully, using his stun baton and hand-to-hand combat to disable the guards without killing them. Scifi used her psionic energy to create barriers and push enemies away. Together, they made their way through the station, facing obstacles and traps set by the Karth. Finally, they reached the control room. Vance hacked into the system, bypassing security codes with practiced ease. The screens flickered to life, showing maps of the station and nearby space. "Good," Vance said. "We can use the station's defense systems to hold off the Karth fighters." Scifi extended her energy to the station's shields, strengthening them beyond their normal limits. Outside, the Karth fighters prepared to attack again, but the station's enhanced shields repelled their weapons. Vance contacted the Earth Federation fleet, sending a distress signal and requesting immediate assistance. Minutes later, Federation ships arrived, their sleek forms shining in the starry void. They engaged the Karth fighters in a fierce battle, driving them away from the station. As the Federation ships secured the area, Vance and Scifi breathed a sigh of relief. "We did it," Scifi said softly. "But the war is not over." Vance nodded. "No, it's just beginning." The victory was a turning point. Scifi's story spread throughout the galaxy, inspiring others to stand against the Karth Syndicate's cruelty. As they prepared to leave the station, Scifi turned to Vance. "Thank you for saving me," she said. "You showed me that humans can be heroes." Vance smiled warmly. "You taught me that hope can come from the most unexpected places." Together, they boarded the Federation ship, ready to face the challenges ahead. The stars outside shone brightly, promising new adventures and the chance for peace. The stars outside the Earth Federation ship sparkled like tiny diamonds scattered across the endless black sky. Inside the ship's bright command room, Scifi sat quietly, her glowing skin now shining with renewed strength and hope. Beside her, Commander Elias Vance stood, watching the distant galaxies as the ship moved steadily through space. They had come a long way from the dark prison world of Sirian 9 and from the frozen moon where they had fought for survival. Now, aboard the Federation's flagship, they were safe, for the moment. Scifi's eyes reflected the stars. "I never thought I would see such kindness from a human," she said softly. "You risked everything to save me." Vance smiled gently. "I did what anyone would do. No one should suffer alone. You reminded me what we're fighting for." Their journey had become more than just a rescue mission. It was a symbol, a message to the galaxy that even in the darkest places, hope could shine through. The Federation Council awaited their arrival. They needed to hear Scifi's story firsthand. The truth about the Karth Syndicate, their cruel experiments, and their dangerous plans to misuse the Aelari technology. As the ship docked at the Federation headquarters, Vance and Scifi prepared to meet the leaders who held the fate of many worlds in their hands. Inside the Grand Hall, council members from many species gathered, their faces full of curiosity and concern. Scifi stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "My people's technology is a gift," she said. "It is meant to heal, to build, and to bring peace. The Karth want to turn it into a weapon of war. If they succeed, countless lives will be lost." The council listened intently. Vance supported her, sharing details of the prison, the battles, and the courage of the human spirit. After the meeting, the council agreed to increase efforts against the Karth syndicate. Ships would be sent to free other prisoners, and the Federation would strengthen alliances with peaceful species. Sephiara looked at Vance with gratitude. "You showed me humanity's true strength, not in weapons, but in mercy and courage." Vance placed a hand on her shoulder. "And you showed me the power of hope." Days passed as Sephiara healed and planned with Federation leaders. She was no longer just a prisoner. She was a symbol of unity and peace. One evening, as the twin moons of a peaceful planet rose outside the ship's window, Sephiara and Vance stood together, looking toward the stars. "The galaxy is full of darkness," Sephiara said quietly, "but it is also full of light." Vance nodded. "And as long as we stand together, that light will never fade." Their story spread across the stars, inspiring others to stand against cruelty and fight for justice. The bond between humans and Alari grew stronger, promising a future where different worlds could live in harmony. Sephiara smiled, feeling the warmth of friendship and hope. "Thank you, Elias," she said, "for saving me and for believing in a better tomorrow." Vance smiled back. "Thank you, Sephiara, for showing me what it means to be truly brave." As the ship sailed through the vast galaxy, two friends looked forward to new adventures, united by a promise that no matter the darkness, humanity's light would always shine.